Good morning. My idea is also to take a. I start from an image that Jacopo has shown before. That is the Lenin Institute of Librarianship, Moscow. That is a typical project of avant-garde of Russian supremacists, and is a project that put in strong evidence the idea of the flying over, the projecting buildings, architecture, volumes, figures into the space, into the high. This is something that I think is strongly related with the highway nature, is related with the idea of movement, with the idea of future, of the idea of technology. Is the bridge. Of course, the bridge is the suspended architecture par excellence, and the bridge is, as you have seen, a typical rest area architecture in Italy, and not just in Italy, also in France, also in Switzerland, and in the United States too. And the bridge as a building is very recurrent, and is a typical landmark of the highways. So I go back to this famous Capriccio by Canaletto, painted by Canaletto, with the project that Andrea Palladio did for a competition at the end of the 16th century for the bridge of Rialto. The idea of Palladio was to make a bridge as a building, or to make a building as a bridge, a building that can cross the Canal Grande, the great canal of Venice, but also can create a space, can give space to some functions, activities, so transforming the bridge that of course, by its nature, is a connection, into a centrality, into a point of arrival, and not just a point of transition, of crossing. This is another Capriccio by Canaletto, and the big image is the project by Andrea Palladio. The project was never built, but it's very interesting. This idea of creating a complexity of space over the bridge, with a series of volumes, of open spaces, of closed spaces, of different paths, different hallways, etc. And of course, with the two important connection with the shore of the canal on the two sides. This is the Rialto Bridge, as was designed and built later by Antonio da Ponte. That is, in a way, a very simplified representation of the Palladian idea. So this is mostly a bridge, but it's a bridge with over an architecture. So there is an architectural part that is clearly divided by the structural real bridge part. You have under the bridge with the great arch and the balustrade, and over that there is this strange overlapping architecture made of this series of arches with the central gate. This is another elevated, super elevated, suspended architecture, more related with the idea of connection, and is the Passetto di Borgo. The Passetto di Borgo is the suspended, fortified path that allow the Pope to reach from St. Peter, Castel Sant'Angelo. Castel Sant'Angelo was the fortress, was the place where the Pope went when the barbarians entered the city. So it was a fortified path. What is interesting for us is that this path is overpassing the city, is overpassing gardens, streets, houses. So it's another scale in a way. At the same time, it's a very human scale. It's a small path made just for the Pope and his court. This idea of making a path, of connecting the building with what is around through an important path, through a road, through something that is between a ramp, a bridge, a street, was very important for Le Corbusier. You know that Le Corbusier attributed a lot of importance to the Promenade Architecturale, that is this path that at the beginning he developed into the building completely inside the box of the building, like in Villa Savoie, like in Maison La Roche. And after, at the end of his career in 1963, Le Corbusier put the ramp outside the building and through the building. This is the Carpenter Center for the Visual Art, Cambridge, that is part of the Harvard campus, and has this characterization that the passing through the building is a constituent part of the building itself. You see the interesting section. Sorry, the caption is wrong, of course. This is still the Carpenter Center of Le Corbusier. You see the section, the plan with the ramp connecting two small parallel streets that run on the two sides of the building. The building is rotated, and this path is going up to the upper level, to the second level of the building, and then is going down again to reach the ground level on the other side of the building. This is another beautiful ramp, outdoor ramp made by Le Corbusier for the Mill Owners Association building in Ahmedabad, 1954. The building, in this case, is the destination of the ramp. The ramp is not passing through the building, but the ramp has, in a way, a strong autonomy. So also we can imagine that the connection that we need to cross the highway, to pass over the highway, can be part also of the architectural conception of our buildings. This is another building that is a bridge, or more than a bridge, is a completely super elevated building. Is built as a bridge. Is not a bridge, but has this character of being up over a very large, very long span, and to present itself to the city as a flying block, a very massive block, but also completely detached, flying over the ground, detached from the ground. So the access is just on the left side, where you see the elevator and the stairs, and the entire building is flying over the ground. This is the Museum of Art of Sao Paulo in Brazil, designed by Lina Bobardi at the end of the 50s. And you see here how, of course, the structure becomes important. The red is make clear what is the supporting structure. So the exhibition of the structure is important, is relevant for the comprehension of the building, for the expression of the building. The building is a box hanging from two huge beams, two huge portals. This is another view. Of course, one of the main effects of this structure is the creation of this public open space below the building that has a very clear formal definition, being just a huge void, separating that particular void from the continuity of the street, of the public space, of the street of this avenida, that is the Avenida Paulista, is the main street of the city. You see here the section of the building. There is another part of the building underground, important, and the main part with the most important exhibition is hanged to the portals. This is from a book of sections, and it's very clear. There is this terrace part below that is very related with the orography of the soil, that in here is very is very is very important, because it's going down to the left, the level of the city, down till the historic center, and on the right we have the Avenida Paulista, that is at the top of a hill running over the top of a mountain. So the plaza is suspended over the city on the left side, and on the other side is just the ground for the elevated part of the museum. This is a street view of the building. This is a view of the space below, of course, with the entrance. And this is the open space inside. So this openness that you find below on the platform, at the ground level, the city level, is repeated into the bridge, in the suspended part. It is one huge open space where you can arrange exhibition completely freely. This is another view of a more recent exhibit, and this is the part of in the basement, in the lower part. Okay, going back to our highways, we see here the first more or less autogrill, the first restaurant for the rest areas. And you see that here Angelo Bianchetti, the architect, the main architect of the rest areas, started with this idea of projecting into the sky, in creating something that was very visible as a landmark, was very clear, was very expressive as a structure. You see two different structures. On the left side is the restaurant that we have in one of our, in the Giovi rest area, one of our sites. On the right side is on the A9 highway going from Milano to Como. And in both sides, there is this huge structure that is completely detached and separated from the building. The building is more or less the same, is this circular space. And over the building, there is this completely independent, huge structures taking up the landmark of Pavesi. So there is this idea of going up, going in elevation and exhibiting the structure. After that, Angelo Bianchetti, at the end of the 50s, imagined this concept that was taken from some North American samples already existing at the time, and he developed this bridge restaurant that became a very strong landmark, a very strong kind of new architecture for Italy and for Italian highways. This is maybe the oldest one in the A1 highway, that is the highway from Milan to Rome, Naples. And this is the Pavesi, the restaurant that cross the highway and connect the two areas. And this also is maintained, the duplicity of the building and the landmark. You see the two towers at the two feet of the bridge, completely independent, and just are there to take up the Pavesi sign. And this is an interesting sketch made by Angelo Bianchetti with the rest area. Also with the size, we see, for example, that probably is 9 meters high from the street level. The building, there is a 26, the span between the pillars, and the structural idea is very important. Also distribution with the two stairs, the two feet of the building, 12 meters of wide. And these are the autogrill that after that, the restaurants that Bianchetti started to make in series, replicating the same typology, interpreting that every time, for example, with different structure. You see in the Montepulciano on the right side above, you see that asymmetrical structure, for example. In the Novara, there is another different structure that where it seems that is duplicated in a way, etc. And in bottom right, you see the autogrill that is on our highway, but more close to Milano. This is another project that was never that was built completely different. Was more or less in the same years, 1969, and is a gas station designed by the architect Costantino Dardi, and is based on a completely different idea. It's an idea of detaching again the sign from the building, but also it's an idea of lightness, of transparency, is the contrary in a way of the Bianchetti approach. And this is near Venice, and this is a drawing of a competition entry and the realized rest area on the right. You see here this perfect cube, this geometrical, like the Luca Pacioli cube, the Renaissance cube, the perfect measure of everything, is maybe ironically, I don't know, suspended over the oil station, the gas station. This is another interesting restaurant and rest area in Tessin, in Switzerland, designed by Mario Botta. Here again, technology is important, structure is important, and again, the structure is used to be present, to create a strong image at the border of the highway. Again, the color is important. Like many Bianchetti buildings were painted in orange or in brilliant colors, this is completely red, like the Chilometro Rosso. And you see, for example, an interesting detail on the left. The orography is very alpine, of course. Tessin is an Alp valley, and the building has, of course, a relation with the highway, but has also a relation with the street that cross the highway and overpass the highway, and has a strong connection with the village that you see on the left of the building. Then on the right, you see the importance of the open space, the canopy, where pass people and cars, and the relevance of the structure, of course. This is another project, nothing to do with an highway. Also, it is really at the board of an urban highway in Beijing. And what is interesting for me, for us, for our project, is the idea of creating a central space, a series of detached buildings, and to make connection in height, creating this bridge that connects the entire compound at a very high level. This is a Stephen Hall linked hybrid in Beijing. And you see also, is interesting for me, the typology that is not very hybrid, but is very simple and very flexible. If you see, all buildings have a very clear structure, a central core, a clear form, and can be used in many different kind. So the importance, the character of the building is most given from the quality of the central space and the character of the connection at the high level, because the buildings are more or less the same and are presented as a background, with a not expressive background, just a very simple grid of window and the concrete structure. With these interesting details, for example, of the colors that you see into the window, the yellow, the blue, the red. And in the bridge are the special function. There is art gallery, cafe, book event space, viewing platform, because also this idea of viewing, of observing is very important. No? The bridge, the Bianchetti Bridge Restaurant is a point of view very new and very fascinating over the highway. Not to go up and sit and look at the car passing is a spectacle in itself. The spectacle of the movement. This is another image of the central plaza or courtyard, and you see on the right there is the highway. That is the highway connecting the airport, the main airport of Beijing, with the city center. This is another project that Andrea Rolando showed you before, is the High Line of New York. This is a project of recovering an abandoned railway, elevated railway in a linear garden at the service of the citizens as a new public space. It's very famous, but I think it's interesting for us to look at this under our specific point of view of creating elevated, interesting spaces, because maybe we want to cross the highway. So it's very important that we transform this passing over the highway in something that has a quality, because the simple bridges are always neglected, are very harsh, not comfortable, are not very appealing spaces. So to transform this idea of passing over in an interesting experience, in a quality experience, I think is relevant for our project. This is the highway as it was before the intervention, in abandon, after the train was completely dismissed and the nature was growing up over the infrastructure. And these are the exploration of this wilderness, of this wild place where nature were growing without the presence of the man for some decades. And these are the drawings made by, in this case, by James Corner, I think, how to treat the surfaces, how to distribute the plants, how to take nature over there, how to connect different levels. These are drawings, a general diagram, like a master plan of the intervention with some zooms. And these are images that probably you already know of the New York High Line, this elevated level over the city level, with interesting details, etc., etc. This is another project that I think is interesting for us, and because it's related with this idea of gaining another level, no? Of transforming the soil, in this case, in something that can fly, can go up. This is a project by Didier Scofidio inside the Lincoln Center. Is the Hyper Pavilion, is a pavilion mostly for restaurant events, could be exactly like a rest area facility. And the idea is that the soil is going up, maintaining the grassland, but also freeing the space below and transforming the lawn in a roof, and inhabiting the grassland over and below, creating an interesting super artificial space with an important natural component. And these are images of this grass. This is a pedestrian bridge. This is a real bridge, in the sense that it's nothing more than a bridge, but in a way is a funny project related with this. The link springs to fame. That is this game, this toy for children, and using that kind of structure, that kind of form, that kind of colors, they designed a pedestrian bridge over a canal. So in this case, this is the toy. In this case, this structure and this form is good for modifying the trajectory of the bridge, for make curves, for make the crossing of the canal, to transform the crossing of a canal in a joyful experience, in a pleasant experience. And this is the structure. Again, the bridge is made of two different things. Now, one thing is the structure. You see this double inclinated V columns taking up the structure, and the other structure is the circles, is made by these circles that are really an ornament, but really became the real face, the real consistency bridge. And this is a view from inside the bridge, by day, by night. The colors are important. The ramp connecting with the lower level. This is another very strange way to overpass a canal. This is the Moses Bridge. This is made inside an ancient fortress in West Brabant, Netherlands. And the trick in this case is that you have to pass this is not a canal, this is the water that is made by defense around the fortress. So it's a very calm water, always the same. And they excavated the water in a way, creating a passing through the water in this point and allowing the people to visit the fortress. So this is the idea of making something that is quite invisible, that is completely inserted into the landscape, into the ground on the two shores, and into the water in the middle. Again, the experience is, in this case, also is tactile experience, but also visual, is to pass through a place that normally is not accessible, and to have perception of the infrastructure, because this is an infrastructure very, very close and very peculiar. So other images of the stairs, how people cross the canal, through the canal. Another question that is relevant for the passing from one side to the other of the highway is the wildlife crossing. You know, the highway is a problem for many animals, and many animals die crossing or trying to cross the highway. In our highway, this problem is limited because we have a lot of tunnels. So, of course, animals in the countryside through the mountains is well connected, but also the wildlife crossing can be a spectacular aspect, can be a theme of a project, can be something that allows the passing for the animals, but also explain the people how to respect the life of the animals, how to get in contact with the animals, how to have a perception of the natural environment that is around the highway, around the rest area. So mostly of these wildlife crossing that are existing also in our highways are just tunnels, very, very dark, very sad, not interesting, without any other goal that allow the animals the passing. But also there are, especially in the States, but also in other countries, more important structures that are exactly made for the animals, to allow the animal to cross the highways, the roads. This, for example, is an animals bridge in Montana. Also, these bridges, these green bridges, can become, of course, architectural important elements, changing the landscape in a strong way, and also making the highway better, entering in resonance with the landscape and with the highway, mediating this relation that is often very hard, because of course the highway anyway has a strong impact over the landscape. These are other samples, a 50 highway in the Netherlands. This is in Canada. And this is a more designed natural connection in Vancouver. This is the land bridge, a bridge that is like, is not like a building, but is more like a garden. Cantilevering is another, I think, typical topic for high-tech, for highway, for rest areas, for gas station. Is a tradition, for example, in the gas station to cantilever the roof, to give this idea of technology, of futuristic architecture. Again, we can start from an USSR project. This is the Lissinsky Iron in Clouds, because the cantilevering, like for Leonidov, is a very strong sign of future, of strength, of dynamism, and also produce interesting landmark. Cantilevering creates always a point of interest, a point of is always something special, something different. So we see, for example, in this case, more than a cantilever, there is the cantilevering, also the span that is larger than usual, larger than we can expect. This is a gas station and rest area in Newport Beach, 1949. This is another gas station where the small cantilevering of the slabs is enough to create a sense of lightness and to create an architectural attraction, a very strong image of a very small building. This is another super cantilever that is strange because is in a way is following some vernacular aspects, like the stones, the pitched roof, the timber, but also a very structural expression, strong expression with the arrow, this arrow cantilevering out of the box of the building. This is another beautiful station service gas station in France from the 50s, with the structure and the form are so strong to emphasize, to create a canopy, of course, for the furnishing of for the gas dispenser, but also to create a very strong image. This is a very famous edge gas station in Milan. It's still existing, Corso Sempione, Piazzale Accursio, by Mario Bacciocchi, and is based on this idea of cantilevering, of expanding the canopy to give to the activity of gas delivery, but also to create a strong, super strong landmark. These are other gas stations based on this idea of the canopy and of cantilevering. And this is a very famous project, not realized, by Vittorio De Feo for a gas station, a competition entry where the cantilevering becomes the real point of everything, of the whole project. This is another beautiful cantilever. This is not a gas station, but is a covering, a canopy for a small archaeological site. Is the remnant of an old church, and this just simple canopy built with a rural technology becomes a beautiful presence in the landscape. This is the simple low-tech system that covered the small archaeological site. Okay, so I stop here. I think that I hope that you can have some good reference from these samples, can give you some ideas. And if you have any question, please don't hesitate to write or to speak about that. Thank you.